Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Wednesday morning. Glad you're here. There's a lot to talk about, my friends. There's a video out on YouTube produced by, I don't know who. Who's the talent on the video? It's your friend, Gary Bredefeld, District 6 City Councilman, promoting one of his top issues that he wants at the top of the agenda on May of the 11th. 436 Me TV Option 11. We're back with our program here in just a moment.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
See there, I got so hyped up, I lost my train of thought. I didn't know what I was saying for a moment, but there's this video out on YouTube right now, produced by I don't know who. The talent is Gary Bredefeld, City Councilman, District Number 6, touting In God We Trust. We're going to talk about that in just a moment, but I want to promote tomorrow's program. Tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about teen suicide with our Dr. Peter Nazaridian, our family resident therapist. He's going to be here. And then on Friday, we got a little bit of a surprise for you. We have two people in the studio, including Becky Cinema, yes, the John Wayne hater, is going to be in here to talk about the big movie that's out right now. I got to go see it before Friday. It's called The Promise. It's about the Armenian genocide, and I can't believe just a few days ago, during the commemoration over the weekend, Donald Trump did not even refer to it as the genocide. And as I recall correctly, I think the last president to refer to it as a genocide really was Ronald Reagan. None of the others did. It's amazing that there's proof out there this thing happened and nobody has recognized it. You can't even call it a genocide because we're allies with Turkey. Anyway, we'll talk about that movie. I know that's a political statement on my part, but we'll talk about that movie on Friday. I'm going to go see it, so I'll be up to date, and we'll also have a surprise guest in the studio with Becky to kind of keep her in check a little bit, because, you know, she strays a little bit sometimes. Anyway, we like Becky, though. She's been here a long time. 5 years she's been coming on this program. Anyway, you're watching us live on Comcast Channel 375 as usual. It's Comcast Cable, 10 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock in the morning, a call-in show at 436 Me TV Option 11. Anyway, if you don't have Comcast, 43.6, 13.1 over-the-air broadcast with a digital television antenna. And then the replay of this program comes up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at 13.6 YouTube, and you can see, watch me actually stumble at the top of this program all over again at 2 o'clock, and you can watch me stumble again during the Giants game at 8 o'clock at night, 4.6 Biz TV. I get so excited sometimes, I don't even know what I'm saying, but we're talking about this video that's out on YouTube. You can go check it out. See, Gary Bredefeld is a new city council member. He represents District Number 6. It seems like he's against everything. We'll talk about that during the course of the program. But one thing he's in favor of right now is a resolution that he wants to bring forward on May the 11th in front of the city council. He wants a vote on it. All right, you know that sign in the city hall chambers right at the top on the wall? It says City of Fresno. Below that, he wants In God We Trust. There are a lot of cities and a lot of counties around the state of California that have In God We Trust. In fact, it's in all of our currency. It's on the coins. It's on the paper money. It has been for decades. And Gary Bredefeld wants to come forward and impose his will on the people of Fresno, whether they believe in God or not. But what's the big deal? I want to know who produced this video. Let's roll it and hear it. It's amazing. It's 3 minutes long.
Hi, I'm Gary Bredefeld, councilman from District 6, and as you can probably tell, I'm outside City Hall. And you know, every Thursday, every week, the City Council and the Mayor, we work on very important issues affecting our city. We talk about building up our police force, we talk about fire safety, we talk about building neighborhood parks, planting trees. We talk about improving the economic climate in our city so we create more jobs and allow businesses to expand. But on May 11th at 4 p.m., we'll be bringing forward a resolution to discuss an issue, and this issue may be as important as any I've just discussed. I'm in the city council chambers now, what I like to call the people of Fresno's chamber, because the chamber belongs to the citizens of Fresno. And, you know, there are 4 very special words. In God we trust. It's our national motto. It's been our national motto since it was signed into law in 1956 by then President Dwight Eisenhower. It's been on our currency for 150 years. Over the Speaker's chair in the House of Representatives, you will see In God We Trust. As a matter of fact, God is mentioned in the preamble to the State of California Constitution. I'd like to read it to you. It says, "We, the people of the State of California, grateful to Almighty God for our freedom, in order to secure and perpetuate its blessings, do establish the Constitution of the State of California." 131 cities and counties in the State of California have adopted their national motto in their chambers. Across the country, 648 cities and counties have done the very same thing. And when I became aware of this by a councilwoman in Bakersfield who informed me of this, I said, Fresno needs to do the same thing. From where I sit, we need In God We Trust, because I believe that the further our society has gotten away from God, the more our society has declined. Our national motto, In God We Trust, represents to me the values we need to have and have had throughout the course of our country. It's about faith. It's about faith in God. It's about patriotism. It's making sure that we always are reminded in this beautiful chamber, the People's Chamber, that we consider God and those values when we're making important decisions affecting this city. This has been litigated throughout the country every time it comes back. It's certainly legal to do this, and that's why it's been done across the country. Adopting In God We Trust, our national motto in the council chamber, doesn't preclude us from dealing with all the important issues that we deal with. And frankly, some would argue this is as important as any other issue, perhaps sometimes maybe even more important. If you support our national motto, In God We Trust, coming into the People's Chamber, I ask that you contact your council member, and you can contact them via the City of Fresno website. And it's my hope that after May 11th on 4 p.m., this is what we'll see in the People's Chamber.
I'm really excited because Doug Vagim is here. He's live in our studio. He's a former Fresno County supervisor. Of course, we all know Doug from the water issues and Measure G and all that. So, you know, Doug is here. He knows politics inside out. Like I say, him and George Hofstadter know where the bodies are buried. But I want to know from you. I want to hear from you. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Call in on this issue, because is that a big deal to you? That's number one, to put In God We Trust right below the sign that says City of Fresno in the Fresno City Chamber. So the resolution is going to come to the floor. Gary Bredefeld is going to push it on May the 11th. He's a newly elected city council member out of District number 6. Seems like he's opposed to everything the mayor wants. However, he's not opposed to this. The other question is, he's pushing this item, this agenda. All right. I want to know who paid for that video. Taxpayer money? Did he go to CMAC? Who paid for that well-produced mini documentary? Was it you and me, just so he could push an agenda that maybe not everybody agrees on? You know, there are people out there that don't believe in God. There are people out there that don't believe in the same God that he does. And he wants to push this issue. Who's paying for these videos? I got to ask Gary Bredefeld that. I'll report back to you once I talk to him. 436-ME-TV, option 11. I want to know your take, and I want to know Doug Vagim's take. We're back in just a moment here on Connect with Me.
Hi, I'm Joseph Castro, president of Fresno State. Here on campus and around the Central Valley, we take great pride in Bulldog Red. We also take pride in our diversity and our academic and athletic achievements. On Wednesday, May 10th, it will be my pleasure to join John Mallos on Connect with Me on Me TV Fresno for a 1-hour interview to talk about all the great things happening at Fresno State. See you then.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Samsung big screen we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an HD 3D web-enabled Samsung TV. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Back here in the program, I got to put a picture up of Gary Bredefeld. We all know what he looks like. We just saw his video, but let's put the picture up just right there. Newly elected city councilman, his second time around. He was around when the the baseball stadium was being built back in the early 2000s here in the city of Fresno, the Chancey Park. We like to call it the Chuck. Anyway, Doug Vagim is here. Good to see you this morning, Doug. How are you?
Fine, great.
So, am I out of line in asking who the heck produced this video? Who the heck paid for it? Did Bredefeld pay for this out of his own pocket? What's the deal? Is this appropriate behavior by a council member? He's against everything else. Now he's pushing something that, can be a very controversial issue, even though it's in 131 cities and counties around the state of California, but it's still a very contentious issue.
Well, whether he did it through CMAQ or paid for it through his own funds is his discretion. CMAQ is paid for by you and me and the other people who take Comcast and the other public utilities pay into a fund that are allocated for community access television. Mm-hmm. And there's staff available that you can make available if they, I presume, if they're paid for, you would pay for it out of your own pocket because that's extra money on top of their expenses.
It's like, is it like running for office and you have a campaign slush fund there or something? Or?
Well, he has his own campaign. He probably paid for this out of his campaign funds. I wouldn't doubt it. If there was any charge from CMAQ, most of the charges there are free because they're already paid for. And they do allow community access for a lot of different venues to come in and produce videos and that type of thing. But nevertheless, I think what Mr. Bredefeld is doing here is he is taking a smack at the issue outright, forthwith. He's not slowing down on the issue, and I'll give him credit for just being out there, being bold enough to be standing behind what he wants to do. Remember, let's step back a minute. Mr. Bredefeld served 2 terms on the council way back when I was on the Board of Supervisors. And he came back now, and I think what he found is a culture change. He really wants to, I believe, make himself feel present, and his other members recognize the fact that he's there, and he's bringing up issues, and he's standing firm, and he's also trying to reacquaint himself with the new culture that's sitting there. When he was sitting there with his colleagues, even the Big Five that you called, referred to with George Hofstetter, the back in the day when they overrode Mayor Patterson 5 times.
Yeah, they did, and him and Patterson were constantly fighting. I had one person tell me, Doug, I don't know if you can verify this, that it got so heated between him and Jim Patterson that Bredefeld went and pounded on his door one day, and I don't know, security had to come and shoo him away. I don't know if that's true or not. Somebody told me that. Maybe I shouldn't be reporting that if I don't have all the facts. But I'll even ask Gary Bredefeld about that rumor that came to me by way of a third party or second party or whatever. Nonetheless, it's a very, there are people that don't believe in God. There are people that are atheists. There are people that don't believe in the same God he does. So is this an appropriate issue to be pushing when it seems to me like Fresno has many more problems like shootings, gangs, economic issues, how to spend the cap and trade money. There are more pressing issues that in God we trust. I'm not against God. I'm not anti-religion. But is this, don't we have more pressing issues, Doug?
Well, there's a lot of pressing issues. There's no doubt about it, and even more pressing issues. No doubt about that. But the fact that Mr. Bredefeld has chosen to put a issue out there that has been illustrated, as he just did in this video we just watched, that's out there on the Capitol steps, it's in the back of the Congress, it's in the preambles of our Constitution in the state of California also. Look, it's his decision, and I don't see, and I guess what he's trying to do in some ways is, okay, come out against God. And I really do believe that is a kind of a decision maker that he's laying on the steps of his colleagues, okay?
Right.
And I don't know how you can be against God if you are a believer or a God-fearing individual, but as you point out, there are people in our day and age now that do not and are reflexive when it comes to
All right, the
religion.
Pledge of Allegiance, for example, one nation under God.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and
we're
that was
already one nation under God. Isn't Fresno part of our nation?
Yeah, and remember that was put in the 50s, and it was kind of somewhat of a controversy at the time that we threw in under God.
One nation under God.
Yeah,
that was a controversial issue back then.
When it was not the original content that was added. And
it was added in the 50s.
Yes. And
yeah. And who decided that? Congress did, obviously.
Congress, and I believe Eisenhower signed it.
Yeah.
And
not everybody liked it, though, huh?
What was controversy at the time, but no doubt about it. But the fact of it is that how can you be against God if you are a God-fearing individual?
But there are a lot of atheists out there.
There are, but what he's trying to say is, okay, let's take your measure. Are we a institution that is no different, no less than, or no estranged to God than Congress or the state of California legislature, or what's on our money? I think that's his own ideas, I guess, are in play here. Hard to describe. I think what he's trying to do is get his colleagues to measure up to where they are. Really, this is one of those kind of movers in the dialogue, so to speak. If he gets his colleagues to go along, I don't think it will be any worse for it. I think it'll be fine to have that on our motto. Now, there are those who are going to really, really be mad about it, and they're going to dig in, and I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to stir it up. He's trying to make it an issue that is a blood boiler, and that's one of those testing material type of things that. Look, other council members have done the same on different issues from time to time, and they've just become controversial in fact that how dare you vote against that? Go ahead and vote against that.
But
Make
isn't
my
it
day.
wearing and tearing on the public? I mean, it's just come on. It's almost like a waste of time, almost like a waste of money. A lot of people would say, when you have people walking around Fresno that are homeless, you have people walking around being shot, you have people walking around being robbed, you have people walking around not enough to eat and they can't make ends meet, and Bredefeld's worrying about a sign at City Hall?
Yeah, regardless of this issue, John, whether it's this or anything else, I think what Mr. Bredefeld is really doing here, and I'm
Is
sure
he grandstanding?
he's earnest in what he's trying to do. I won't take that away from him. But what I think also he's trying to do is he's trying to shake up the status quo. Mm-hmm. He's just trying to stir the status quo up. Let's get some energy in here, and he is doing that with this, and he's making his presence felt. Back to my original thought.
By the way, Swearingen endorsed him. Mm-hmm. So did the Fresno Police Officers Association, I believe, and so did Jerry Dyer. They endorsed him.
Right. And I don't think any of those entities would be against In God You Trust. I don't.
No, I doubt it.
Yeah.
No.
Now, my point is, this is really Back to the Future for Mr. Bredefeld. Remember the movie Back to the Future?
Yeah, I love that movie.
And he's coming forward into a new council, and back to the members that he served with. When he served in that council, in my impression, that was a much more, even though at the time there was people we would consider to be not conservative, it was a more conservative council. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Issues that we're bringing up now would never have been thought of to be brought up during that time.
Hey, I'm glad we got a call here because I'm interested to hear what other people have to say. Go ahead.
And the fact that
Hang on, caller.
We have issues on the agenda that council would have summarily rejected.
Yeah.
Or in now standard play, is something I think Mr. Bredefeld has got to be a little bit saying, wait a minute. Remember Jim Webb in the congressional, his presidential run?
Yeah.
And he stood on the stage and says, boy, this isn't the same party. I guess you guys aren't ready for me anymore.
Same kind of deal.
Same kind of deal. And so I think what he's trying to do is make his presence felt and stir up the issues. And I have no problem with God in Trust, and I think he's trying to test that.
Okay, caller, what say you about this issue? Is it controversial to you? Should it be there? Should we be talking about this? What do you have to say about it?
Well, I personally believe if you don't believe in God, there is a higher force for why we're here, you know, and people don't look at it. And if they want to give up money, that's the first thing they should do because of God.
Okay, but is it a relevant issue compared to all the other issues facing the city of Fresno?
Well, the thing is, the most important thing is God, our eternal Father. And that's basically what I believe in, and that should be number one on anybody's list.
Okay.
I don't think anybody can disagree. It's just the fact that I think what John is saying and others are saying is the in-your-face type mechanism and laying it at the doorstep of the council to say take it or leave it. Look, I have no problem with it. I think what he's testing is the mettle of his fellow members, and also it does stir the pot. And if that's what we get as an offshoot from what he's trying to do, I have no problem with it. I'm very happy with it. I mean, the fact that it's everywhere we look. Go in your wallet, look at the dollar bill. You see God you trust. So I think that's what he's trying to point out. But there's other issues here too at play.
Yeah, is it a waste of time or a waste of money, ma'am?
What about the first people that invented or started our, race? I mean, our, like George Washington and everything. We should be facing what they faced. I mean, sure, we don't have Indians and all that, but it should be in the record of us holding up what our fathers have done for us. And basically, that's all I've got to say.
Okay.
Remember, they do say the prayer, and they have an individual from the religious community come up and give a prayer at the beginning of every council meeting. So it's not God's not a stranger to the.
Now keep in mind a little bit different time when George Washington was alive. I mean, the country was just beginning to form. We were trying to kick the British out, obviously. You can't compare the Revolutionary War time to times of today, can you? I mean, it's just impossible.
Well, no, the framework of our country was built around
In God we trust.
It definitely was, and the Bible had a lot to do with it, and the other religious books had a lot to do with it. There was the fundamental liberty is a natural right, and if you read the Bible, there's a lot of natural rights in our Bible, and it has a fundamental following.
Sure.
And essentially, some people think we're getting too far away from that. We're unmooring ourselves from the very foundations that brought this country together.
Well, don't forget, it's freedom of choice in this country. You have freedom of choice of religion, freedom of speech, and so on and so forth. And if you read the Constitution, which I have not read it for quite some time, but I have read it, but it's been a while. I got to refresh my memory here. 436 Me TV option 11. Back with more of Doug Vagim in just a moment.
It's Sully and Russ on the Big Biz Show.
It's your biz.
And maybe they'll start listening to Baldwin McCullough.
Now, before you make any money moves, check in with the Brain Trust.
And you are starting your week off right.
Biz TV is now on KBHF channel 4.6.
Take a look at this. Let's play. This is too hip for you. I'll slow down. Let's play.
Watch all your favorite classic game shows on Buzzer TV, KBBC Digital Channel 13.7.
Back here on the program, do you believe in God? Should it be at City Hall, below the sign that says the City of Fresno? And our producer, Carrie, brought up a great point. What about separation, church and state? Whatever happened to that?
Well, basically our Constitution says no religion shall be forced upon you, nor shall one be denied you, okay? we are leaving
Well,
that.
nobody's denying anybody.
Well, yeah, but the fact of it is, this is not forcing a religion on someone. This is just making a statement.
Well, where are all these faith and community groups to promote this instead of a city council member?
Well, I think that's another thing he's trying to test too, to see where they are.
See where they are. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air with Doug Vagim.
Yes, sir. God, guns, and guts made this country what it is. And I think this issue is just as important as all the others that you talked about. Really? Why? Just
Why?
Important, sir.
Why? Why is it important? Just as important as the others?
Well, because you took God out of schools. You took it out of, you keep taking God out of everything that this country was founded on. And I just think we should always put God first.
Okay.
All these other issues would, that's just a statement of consider it.
All right. So you believe that sign should be there. In God we trust. Caller. I guess he does believe it. Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, and look, the caller's not wrong. I mean, we all
nobody's
believe
wrong.
that. And
I don't think Gary Bredefeld's wrong.
Well, I think what we have here is this. He's right in the sense that he's doing something that I don't think would be unattainable in an environment that we've already established in this country, that we do have it on our public way. The fact of it is, though, it's seemingly coming across now, and I get a sense that you get this sense, that it's an individual spawning the movement all by himself.
Yes.
This video that he produced. I would much have seen this to be spawned by the community, where he would have gone out in the community and talked to the various groups, and maybe he has, I don't know, and have them come forward as a united force to say, yes, we would like that, and walk together.
So he's not going like this with his finger and seeing which way the wind blows.
Well, he's not. He should. I hopefully anybody who's doing public policy ought to go out to the public first
and find out which way the wind blows.
Not which way the wind blows. Is what is
well, what
your
are people
passion?
saying? In other words,
Yeah.
what are people? How do they feel about a certain
Do you
issue?
feel this is an idea that you would like to see? Because I'm willing to lead the charge. I need your energy behind me. It looks
maybe he did that. Who
maybe
knows?
he did that, and perhaps we will find out on the 11th. But the fact that it's cold in the sense of, for us, from the news media and the other ways it was brought up on just ad hoc on the agenda, it seemingly is just dished out to take it or leave it, and that's the impression. And I don't think that's the impression he would want to have, but it's the impression he's getting.
Yeah.
And depends on who wants to push back based on that. I don't think he's going to be resisted to any degree where he's not going to get this in God You Trust. I don't see anybody trying to stop it. I think that's what he's testing to see. Go ahead, test to see if God and Trust should not be a part of our monochrome in this city. And I don't think 99% of the people would have a problem with it.
Yeah, I want to kind of change topics here a little bit and talk about some of the riff on the city council. And I want to point to an article that George Hostetter, our friend, wrote here at CV Observer. He talks about how the Fresno City Council is in serious, and I'm talking about serious trouble. He says there is infighting all over the place, and I'm going to put up some of the pictures of the council members when I call for them. Just let me read this just real quick. You've got Steve Brandow and Gary Bredefeld versus Oliver Baines, Paul Capriolio, Luis Chavez, Clint Olivier, and Esmeralda Soria in a nasty fight over the proper way to set agenda. And then you've got Bredefeld versus Baines, Capriolio, Chavez, Olivier, and Soria in an even nastier feud over personalities. What's going on at the council? Is this true? Let's take this call here before you answer that. Hang on. Caller, go ahead. What say you about our topic today?
Oh, yeah, that'd be a really good topic. And, I'm a Christian. I believe in God. But I don't really think that should be such a big issue because, unless there's money involved, unless he's really drilling it into anybody else's brain, I mean, I think that the best part would be, and you guys were talking about Eisenhower and stuff before, not to jump off topic, but, I mean, there was war going on, you know, I mean, there was, okay, you had something to have to believe in,
not in the
right?
50s. We didn't have war. We didn't have, the Korean War was, I think, already over, right, Doug?
Well,
I don't think that was overrated. That was really bad. My dad was in the Korean War, and there's a lot of things that were involved in that. But you also have to look at social media. There's a lot of bad things that people can say this way or that way. And if you're really going to talk about allocating funds, this high-speed rail, I'm sorry, I have to admit it, I'm totally against it.
Okay.
So I would just let you talk.
Hey, thank you for calling in. Hey, call in and weigh in today. I want to get your take. In God We Trust, should it be there above City Hall? Well, below the sign inside the City Hall chambers where it says City of Fresno, should it be there? And call in and weigh in on this topic. 436-ME-TV option 11. We do have an open phone line, but I want to put up another picture of Gary Bredefeld because we're talking about him touting and promoting this topic of In God We Trust. All right, leave that up there for just a moment because I want to talk specifically about this council member. This is what George Hostetter wrote in the CV Observer. There are council members talking about the Big Five versus Gary Bredefeld and Steve Brandow. Council members Baines, Capriolio, Chavez, Olivier, and Soria see Bredefeld as a swaggering, know-it-all loudmouth, more interested in trumpeting his own ambitions rather than working collaboratively for the city's good. What do you think, Doug?
That can happen with individuals, not just Mr. Bredefeld.
Is that what's going on?
And you know, people have egos, and there is a personality style that doesn't blend sometimes. But at the same time, give the gentleman his credit. He may be bringing in a feeling that things are just everyone's just going.
But he's giving off the perception to his own colleagues that he's a swaggering know-it-all, according to Hostetter.
Well, yeah, that's an interpretation, of course. I think the interpretation is in the eye of the beholder, and maybe George has gotten that feedback as an off comment from some of these folks, and he's just attributing that to a collective remark. But at the same time, Mr. Bredefeld has his own personality. He is using his own style to get himself out into the community voice and standing up more so than he's ever stood up before getting on in this office, and he's trying to make his presence felt. That may be off-putting to some of his colleagues that have gone through. Remember, the guy he replaced, who is now mayor, was somewhat of a laid-back kind of a guy, and often he would vote with the majority, just not to keep himself from being odd man out. Others on that council are not afraid to do that. Now, Mr. Bredefeld is making his voice felt that he's not going to be that same person. And I do believe he wants to show that he can shake things up and change the culture, change the attitude. And as I said before, he's coming back to the future. He wants to bring, he's not comfortable with the feeling that he got from comparing from where he came from in 2 terms as a council many years ago to now currently sitting as a council member. Today, it's a whole different animal. The culture has changed. The decision of topics we've moved to the left on just about everything in even our local government.
I got to go to break. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Call in and weigh in. We're going to talk about some other issues here, too. This has taken up a lot of time, though. 436-ME-TV, option 11. And we have an open phone line. In God We Trust. Should it be there right below the sign inside the Fresno City Hall chamber? Back in a moment.
Want to create something extraordinary? Create perfection. Our lifestyle appliances make it easy. Kitchen KitchenAid, Ventura TV Appliance, and you, when only the best will do.
If you have a need to promote your business or event, please consider MeTV Fresno for your next campaign. MeTV reaches over 100,000 of your potential customers in the Fresno area every single week. Plus, you can rest assured that your commercial is running in the greatest family-friendly programs of all time. MeTV Fresno delivers a strong, loyal audience ready to buy, and your campaign will cost a fraction of what you're paying for your advertising now. Call me today to find out how affordable MeTV is at 905-1925.
You know, I have to admit, I was stumbling around the internet last night and discovered this video, and that's why we're talking about it today, because I was trying to do some research on other topics. Not sure if we'll have time for the other topics, because I found this to be quite interesting, quite controversial, and I want to get your take on it. Let's get some other callers to call in at 436-MeTV option 11. In God We Trust. I mean, should we have that here in the studio, right above my head? In God We Trust? I mean, they want it at City Hall. At least Bredefeld does. Let me get back to the City Council just for a moment, and I want to put Bredefeld's picture up one more time here and talk a little bit about what happened on March the 23rd, because that's when Steve Brandow, his resolution to oppose SB 54 was pretty much dead on arrival. The bill made its way through Sacramento, as you know. Only Brandow and Bredefeld voted yes on the motion to hold a vote on SB 54. However, Bain, Soria, Chavez voted no. 2 abstentions, Capriolio and Olivier. The war seemed to be on. And then on the same night, on the 23rd, another motion on a resolution, AB 199, making its way through Sacramento, that would drastically extend prevailing wage mandates in construction. Again, Brandow, Bredefeld took the bite. The other 5 members abstained. So you had 7 abstentions in one night on March 23rd on 2 issues. Brandow and Bredefeld standing alone against the other council members. Let's put up Steve Brandow's picture. Steve Brandow, of course, has been on this program before many times. So are Brandow and Bredefeld side by side in their views against the other council members?
Well, once again, I do believe Mr. Bredefeld, and he has, let's say, unabashed courage in this particular instance, and he's not afraid to mix it up. The fact of it is anybody would go out and be able to put a video together and stand firm behind his principles of what he's trying to do has got courage. And I do believe he's making his presence felt, and he wants to test the mettle of the other members, and he's not afraid to do that. Now,
speaking of the other members, I'm going to put their pictures up on the screen. Clint Olivier, let's go with him first. Of course, usually it's the 5 against 2. It's the 2 being Bredefeld and Steve Brandow. There's Clint Olivier, and of course, he's the council president. And then you've got Luis Chavez, of course. He stands with Olivier on a lot of things, as does Oliver Baines, who's been there quite some time. Paul Capriolio, that's Baines right there. We got Capriolio as well. There he is. And Esmeralda Soria. Those are the 5 against the 2. Now, sometimes it's 4 against 3. Olivier will side with Bredefeld and of course, Brandow. But most of the time, it seems, Doug, it's 5 against 2. Is this like it was back in the early 2000s when Patterson was the mayor, or when Autry was the mayor?
Well, if you remember, those 5 that were overriding Mayor Patterson on 4 or 5 different occasions, including a stadium vote, were diverse. So they were some were conservative and some were liberal, or let's say center right to center left is really where the spectrum was on those 5. Your more conservative members stayed with Patterson, and so at least there was a minority of the vote that stayed with Patterson.
Yeah.
The fact that I believe what we have today, though, is look, you guys are bringing issues that I am uncomfortable with. I'll bring you issues that you're uncomfortable with.
Well, let me bring up some issues, okay? How about the rental inspections? Okay, Bredefeld, Olivier, Steve Brandow voted against it. Okay, let's bring up the Police Oversight Board. All right, you want to know who voted against that? Bredefeld and Brandow. It was 5-2 to push that thing forward. Sanctuary City, we just mentioned that. Bredefeld and Brandow were against it. Marijuana. Bredefeld is against opening up these dispensaries. So these are Lee Brand type issues. Bredefeld stands against what Lee Brand stands for, it seems.
On the marijuana dispensary issue, you have to note that it was Lee Brand that signed the note to get it on the council agenda as a special agenda item the last time they discussed it. So whether Mr. Bredefeld and Mayor Brand are on the same wavelength, I don't know. But it's kind of interesting that they co-signed that notice to get it on the agenda. The fact that each one of those issues could be portrayed as being issues that are, let's just say, contra to where Mr. Bredefeld is, and he feels just as offended that those issues are put in front of him to say yes or no. And it could be that these issues that he's bringing forward are issues that he's saying, okay, take this. If you're going to go with these types of issues that I see as kind of being on the outside edge of where we, like you say, major issues that we should be discussing, you're bringing in bills that we're asking to either endorse or not endorse. But wherever you are, whether you endorse them or not endorse them, tells a lot about your political fabric. I believe we have a little bit of that to play, that each one of them is doing a little bit of lobbying these issues into the laps of each other, and that isn't healthy if that goes on a long term, John. It's not a healthy place to be.
I want to take a quick break. 436-MeTV, option 11. We're going to be back. We'll talk a lot about some other issues here in just a moment.
The Justice Network is here. If you haven't tuned in, you're missing a great lineup of gripping stories of real crime, plus an unprecedented effort by viewers like you to play an active role in making your community safer. You can help support law enforcement by providing information that may lead to the apprehension of dangerous criminals or find a missing child. Great shows and your chance to fight crime, only on the Justice Network.
Hi, I'm Joseph Castro, president of Fresno State. Here on campus and around the Central Valley, we take great pride in Bulldog Red. We also take pride in our diversity and our academic and athletic achievements. On Wednesday, May 10th, it will be my pleasure to join John Mallos on Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno for a 1-hour interview to talk about all the great things happening at Fresno State. See you then.
Got a caller waiting in line here. Go ahead. You're on the air. Quickly, short on time. I'm glad you called. What's on your mind?
Well, I was watching your program here, and this "In God We Trust" deal. If it means something, I mean, just putting it up there and having it there means nothing if they're not going to live up to a Christian meaning of that. And I see this guy, most of the things that he wants to stand up for really isn't helping his fellow man.
All right. Well, yeah.
And those are the things you stir up by bringing these issues up. Well, remember, there's 3 monotheistic religions that have a God, a single God, and they happen to be the most populous religions in the world.
Okay, you're talking about Christian, Jewish, Muslim, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so God itself is not the message bringer, whether it be Moses or Christ or Muhammad.
Yeah.
But the fact that, and even multi-God religions have a God. Okay, so that's always a big question mark what that is, and that does have that in today's age, where we're beyond where we were in the 50s, as you mentioned before, as a different time. However, as a gentleman just said, as a caller just said, if it's not in your principle, it's not in your fabric, and you're just putting up the words and you're just showboating, he's absolutely right. It is a waste of time. I hope that's not what he's doing. I hope Mr. Bredefeld is really earnest about the words and what they mean.
Okay, caller, do you have any other quick comment? Because we're short on time. I appreciate your call.
Well, I just would hope that love would be the overriding factor, and you could put yourself in the place of some of these people who you who you vote against in the things that really matter. I mean, the words up there are good for visual, but not going to make a difference in the people's lives that are out here trying to make it.
Empathy
that's a good
no,
point.
and empathy has a big place in politics.
Yeah,
believe me. And if
caller, I think this caller said it better than I said it previously on this program, is that
Said it very good.
whether or not these words are on there or not will make no difference as to the way people are conducting their lives, or people in need, whether or not they're getting what they need in life, whether it's food, water, jobs, money, whatever the case may be. Whether that sign is there or not makes no difference as to whether they get their needs taken care of.
Yeah, well, it's empathy, but there's more than one way to solve a problem.
Right.
And just dishing out stuff because someone says they need to have stuff
right.
may not be the best answer. Solving their problem by allowing them to get their own may be a better answer.
Yeah.
And that might be a tougher...
That's a tougher road to hoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, caller, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, I want to roll a videotape on a very important issue, and it is cap and trade. Let's roll it. David Taub of GVWire.com, our friend over there, has this report.
Last year, Governor Jerry Brown signed a law at a Fresno ceremony that would send $70 million of cap and trade funds to the most environmentally disadvantaged communities. This CalEnviroScreen map shows some of the areas in the state hardest hit by pollution. Fresno is mostly in the red, especially in the south and west parts of the city. But as with any government grant, there's friction on some of the state guidelines on how and where to spend the money. Right now, a preliminary proposal calls for spending the money near high-speed rail stations. Just last month, Fresno Mayor Lee Brand felt that money is coming downtown.
Last year, we were able to secure a $70 million grant on cap and trade, the largest single grant ever by the city of Fresno. And that money will primarily be spent downtown.
The Strategic Growth Council is the state agency in charge of distributing the funds. They held a regular meeting this week. A busload of 50 residents from Southwest Fresno attended to voice their concerns.
They do not want to prioritize 1 mile radius around the high-speed rail. They want to see the money be used to really benefit the community.
Absolutely, residents have been very loud and clear around the concern with the 1 mile radius. Not necessarily that we don't support high-speed rail, but really making sure that the 1 mile radius currently would not allow us to reach Southwest Fresno. It actually gets barely to the edge of Southwest. And
I think that West Fresno should be the priority in terms of how this money is spent, in terms of the types of projects that are going to come.
When you come into my neighborhood, there's just like no pizzazz or like greatness to it. Because, for example, there's no sidewalks, and there's bad air pollution, and sometimes just low quality living situations.
A second round of guidelines is due out in May. A final proposal may be ready by the end of the summer.
And
David Taub, GV Wire.
All right, we have a caller here, but I'm going to ask him to hold for just a moment. Cap and trade money is going to be a big, debatable issue. I guess the contract says that he has to spend it within a mile radius of downtown, but there are those people that are squawking in southwest Fresno, southeast Fresno. The less fortunate want a part of that money. Doug, how's this all going to shake out?
Well, first of all, remember, cap and trade is a pollution-oriented tax. Okay,
is that how we qualify?
Well, we're taxing air. All right.
All right.
And we're taxing the fact based on
taxing smog.
Well, it's not smog. This is what you and I breathe out.
Right.
Okay.
But you know where it's coming from.
And the fact that it's considered to be a greenhouse gas.
Okay.
It's not a pollutant. It's a greenhouse gas. Well, you won't die from it unless you take all oxygen out of the air and it's all CO2. You'll die, of course. But the fact of it is, it's oriented based on CO2 greenhouse gas emissions, and the high-speed rail is a theoretical reducer
in greenhouse gases.
Greenhouse gas.
Right.
So this is oriented on the money they received from cap and trade. That means
but why do they have to spend it downtown? Why can't the people in Southwest get it? Why can't people in Southeast get just a piece of even $5 million for Southwest would help?
Because it's all aimed at the target of making high-speed rail a avenue of that works. And if your community is servicing a major station that Fresno will get, whether the trains stop or not, nothing in the law says the trains even have to stop, you know.
Yeah.
They just have to go through it.
Will those people be able to make a dent and convince the state or the city to get a part of that money?
They could get some modifications in the interpretation, and whether that commission has the ability to make some interpretations to spread that beyond a mile radius, I don't know. But the fact of it is, I know that's where it's oriented, and it's all hooked to the high-speed rail.
It's going to be a battle.
And primarily, that is really going to be designed to help take land that was in one form used one way, and then convert it to be used another way. And it'll be an aid, like whether it's traffic or changing access points, that kind of thing. That's how that money's going to be spent.
It's going to be a battle, though, because they're going to squawk that the people in Southwest, they're going to oppose
well, it's a big chunk of change. There's no doubt about that.
It's a huge amount of money. $70 million for Fresno is big, more than LA is getting.
Right, it's more than
LA. And the third
LA.
city has not been named yet. Caller, you're on the air, short on time. Go ahead. Thanks for waiting.
Hey, thank you so much for taking my call. I love your guest, Supervisor. Thanks for your time. You know, it's funny, the third most abundant element in the universe we are now taxing. And as far as the reduction of that element by taxing it, we're going to get 1% less mileage on the freeways. Out of 300 million miles driven, or billion, we're only going to reduce it 1%. So I think you're right. The tax is foolish. Going back to the In God We Trust here in Northern Valley, I'm Casey from Merced. In Atwater, they tried that, and the sign looked horrible, and the people that actually donated money to it wanted it taken down once they had it put up, and they did a redesign and put up some different signage. But I think it's interesting when we just use the vernacular In God We Trust, and several of the callers had mentioned Christianity. Don't forget there's some other religions, you know, the Jews are still waiting for their Savior, and if you're a Muslim, the year is 1395. So it depends when you say God, what God we're talking about. And I think it's interesting what we see across this country. Look what happened in New Orleans this week in the dead of night. The firefighters wore their masks so nobody would see them as they took down history in our country. So I see our politicians doing a lot of grandstanding, and I think that they should be doing more of the business at hand. As you said, there's many issues that face not only Fresno, but all of us here in the Central Valley. And as the supervisor knows, ex-supervisor, all politics is local. And these issues that we face here in the Valley, whether it be sanctuary cities, blah, 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 they need to be addressed, and we need to quit worrying about words on a wall or grandstanding by Councilman Bredefeld.
All right, thank you for the call. Great call. You're calling from Merced, right?
Yeah, Casey from Merced, and again, we tried it here in Atwater, and make sure you get a good designer.
You got it. You got it. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it very much. Short on time, but go ahead.
The gentleman's got good points. And,
yeah.
And the fact that it is design is critical, and the question then will become who's going to pay for the cost of the design.
Yeah.
And is there going to be a community outreach to do a design just like we did on the logo of the city of Fresno? Remember when we changed the logo of the city of Fresno, how controversial that was?
I want to get this in before we run out of time here. Wilma Kwan Schechter named the new city manager, the first woman to hold a position named by Lee Brand to take over for Bruce Rudd. Rudd will stay on as a consultant for a while. Here is a little piece, a little soundbite from the Fresno Bee on the announcement.
And it is with great pleasure today that I announce that I have chosen Wilma Kwan Schechter as the new city manager of Fresno.
So I am very thankful and humbled to be standing before you today and alongside the mayor for this announcement. I am so grateful to have the opportunity to serve this community and the mayor as the next city manager for the city of Fresno.
All right, let's put up the photo of Wilma Kwan Schechter. She's 43 years old, takes over for Bruce Rudd. Rudd will stay on, as I said, but Schechter's worked at City Hall since 2009. Of course, she is married to the one David Schechter, who once was a professor at Fresno State, worked at City Hall under Mayor Ashley Swearingen. She's the first woman. Is Lee Brand trying to make a political statement, trying to appease the female audience, of course, and not our audience, but specifically, but the voters out there. And maybe like Bredefeld has often pointed to, or even Power Talk 96.7 has pointed to Lee Brand trying to appease these left-wing liberal groups because he wants to be reelected in 4 years. Is that what this move is all about?
Well, I hope not. I hope he saw her for her qualifications and her background at City Hall. Has worked at various departments, so she understands the mechanisms of those.
She understands City Hall,
and the fact that she probably has some talent. I really don't know her, that he saw in her, that is and he's able to work with her, because believe me, the city manager and the mayor have to work very close together.
They've got to be like this.
They've got to be like that. And if that's the level of trust that they have with each other, that's all the better for us.
Okay, quickly, picture of Lee Brand, and I got to make this quick in 30 seconds. Is he trying to appease those left-wing liberal groups?
Well, he's crossed over from what he said in front of you, if you remember correctly, about not supporting
Sanctuary City.
Sanctuary, and he also said that he wasn't going to support forcing people to become labor. On project labor agreements, and he's already flipped on that. So I guess you could say he's reaching way across to try to amend some of his previous statements.
All right, let's put up the picture of Brooke Ashton. He is a board member, Fresno Unified School District, under investigation by the California Fair Political Practices Commission. Has added contracts totaling nearly $6 million to the investigation of Brooke Ashton. Is there a conflict of interest? Ashton owns, of course, the Seal Right Paving and other companies that failing to fully disclose a slew of businesses as a source of income on his statement of economic interest on that political form. Is he in trouble?
Well, the reports, I haven't been able to read the report. I'd have to analyze it. It depends on what their language is and what their triggers are. The news article didn't have the report in it, but it depends on just how much. If they're just beginning their investigation, that's one thing. If they've actually put out a final report where they've actually said this and that, and you violated this and you violated that, that's another thing. I don't think we're at that point yet.
They're saying that he failed to fill out this report, a form elected officials are required to fill out to ensure transparency and to prevent conflicts of interest. Ashton didn't do it. Can they fine him?
Well,
can he go to jail? What's the consequence?
Okay, that's the Form 700, where you put down all your items in which there's a potential, where there is financial conflict of interest. In other words, what is your sources of income? He probably did not include, he probably put his business down, or he didn't put a business down, then maybe had some dealings with Fresno Unified, and they've caught him on that. Some fine points here, but those fine points are often overlooked in the sense of just admonishment. Do it from now on, so to speak.
Right.
And he may just get that.
And he didn't do that, and so so he could get fined.
Well, if it's deemed to be just an oversight where he can amend his form, that's all they may do. Depends if they find it was overt or not.
Okay, and another topic we'll talk about another time on your appearance, maybe here next month, is you got a guy named Andrew Jans who works in the DA's office, is going to challenge Devin Nunes for Congress, District 22 next time. We'll talk about that next time on your appearance. Were you surprised to see that?
If he's a Democrat, I'm not surprised.
Nobody knows who he is, but he works in the DA's office. He wants to challenge the incumbent.
Well, you got to hand it to the Democrats. They're very active. Unfortunately, in our state, the Republican Party is a dead party. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is in Sacramento. All across the state.
It's rest in peace until they get their acts. We shouldn't have got that gas tax, and if the Republicans were on top of things, they wouldn't have got it.
We can talk about that next time too. All right, Doug Vagim, always good to have you a friend of this program, and I appreciate it very much.
I feel very comfortable being here. It's always good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your insight. Former Fresno County supervisor. I still call him supervisor. He's still a supervisor in my book. All right. Anyway, maybe he should be mayor of Fresno. Anyway, 436 Mean TV option 11. Leave a message. Back tomorrow with who? Peter Nazaridian. That's right. Have a good day. See, my brain's not...
And away we go.
Here's the place that makes you smile. Stick around and stay a while. We're the home of great TV. That's memorable. That's me.
Follow me, sir.
Call them classics, call them the best. Call them favorites, be our guest. Every day there's more to come. Watch and see, there's only one. Me TV.
All you have to do is watch me.